Etapu, Assalamu alaikum, Namaste, Haru Nefer, and Netrak. This is Kasank Ma Keperu with another video for you. And in this video, we're going to be talking about the 4-step evil plan of the elite and how to defeat them. But before I do that, I'd like you to hit the like button on this video. If this is your first time to my channel, welcome. Hit the subscribe button to get notifications on when I go live and when I upload recorded videos. And if you're not a supporter of ours on Patreon, please consider doing so. You can do so for as little as $1, $5, or $20 per month. You get exclusive access to all types of great instructional videos on the esoteric, on the occult, to take your knowledge to the next level, to go down the rabbit hole, to learn to manipulate the matrix. And you can, as a Patreon supporter, you can cancel at any time. Last but not least, share this video with family and friends. We want to get this revolution started. Oh, yes, and we do have free ebooks for you. So if you're looking to really go into that deep rabbit hole, just click on the links below, download the ebooks, and start reading today. So, Netrak, how are you out there? I want to get right down to business and start talking about some things, because I don't think people really understand the message I'm putting out there. I don't think people are really processing it correctly, because when I say certain things, I get emails coming back at me with people, some meaning very well, but lead off in the entirely the wrong direction. And it's almost as if they didn't really hear what I had to say. I think I'm making it very plain and simple and straightforward for you to understand what we're up against and how we need to get out of it. But I just don't think that there is a real grasp on this. So I want to reiterate my point and try to give you it from a different perspective, in hopes that this different perspective will resonate within you and crystallize, so you'll finally understand what we need to do and how we need to go about it. Because many in the conspiracy theory arena talk about the coming of the New World Order, that we must be vigilant, or else the ruling elite, the cabal, will subjugate all of us. Well, I've said this time and time again, and you must understand it and accept it. We have lost the battle and the war. This talk of being vigilant, standing up to defend our rights. Again, you had lost your rights a long time ago. When you research antiquity and how we lived and where we are now, you will clearly see that the people that we are now are a product of the ruling elites' social and genetic engineering. They have crafted us to be the way we are today. Servants in servitude, sheep, automatons. You think that you are autonomous. You think that you have agency, but you don't. You think you have freedoms, but you don't. You think you can think for yourself. You can't. You merely regurgitate what you have been programmed to say. So let me again reiterate this point and make it very clear. We have lost the battle and consequently lost the war. There is no revolution or rebellion to protect our rights, to prevent the New World Order, to prevent the one world government. It is already here. It's been here for a long time. And you must accept that fact and understand that. Because if you understand that, then you have gone far into understanding what the next phase is. But if you're still among those who are slow and who refuse to accept the truth, and you still profess that you must fight to prevent the one world government, then you have no understanding of what's going on. You're missing the point. Who we were in past history were people of amazing power and agency. We did things unimaginable by today's standards. When the cabal came into power, they put in plan that would ensure that we would be removed from our power. And not only that, that we cannot even come into an understanding of how powerful we were as a people and how powerful we can be again. What I want to do now is I want to lay out the 4-step plan of where they want to take us in the next phase of their plan. Because as I said before, they have already won. They have destroyed Kemet and most of the advanced civilizations of antiquity. To the point now, only remnants are available for us to see and dig up. It's funny, I was watching this show the other day where they had these native indigenous people who were teaching the so-called white man about spirituality and oneness. And when I see something like that, I see a falsification of history, a lack of understanding of who we were. See, when you see those types of images where you have the white man come on his ship and he meets the loving native people who are one and centered with the universe, you are looking at a defeated people. You are looking at the end of their existence. We did not, at our heights, live in huts and so-called oneness with nature. That was the finale, that was ending of our civilizations. But the modern media likes to portray that was at the zenith of our civilizations, that is the pinnacle, or that is where we should be. No, my beloved. When you see those images, that represents the defeated people. That represents the destruction of our civilizations. Because the civilizations that we had were marvels of architecture and engineering. But you see, when they put out these movies, they have to get us stuck in the idea of slavery. They have to get us stuck in the idea of primitive native people who are loving and one with nature. But that's not the truth. That's a lie. That's a falsification of history. When that ship comes and the supposed so-called white man looks upon our people, he should be looking upon gigantic monolithic structures that marvel the eye. He should not look at people coming out of huts, sectioned off into clans. He should be looking at structures that would be here and would be here from now into eternity. Because that's how we build things to last. That's how we built our civilizations, so that when you looked upon them, you would look at them in awe at the magnificence. You would be taken aback by the overwhelming scale of our nations. Not these primitive little huts and people. That represented the decline of our civilizations. But you see, the modern media makes it okay because it says Oh, but they are peace loving and one, and that is something that we all can admire, because the Western mindset is xenophobic. It's too afraid to portray the truth, to show the truth. It's too frightening for them to understand and embrace even their own history, that these indigenous people of melanin created wonders to where the eyes could not look upon it. These wonders would dwarf anything that Western man could have accomplished if these civilizations had been allowed to continue. So I want you to clearly understand that the modern media, their fixation is on just pointing out slavery, as that's part of your history, and pointing out the peaceful, loving people who lived in huts. They don't want the truth. And neither do we. Because that would mean that we would need to take up the mission of resurrecting that culture, resurrecting that knowledge. And many of us don't want to go through that work. Many of us don't want to do that. And I think that is because when I say these things, you refuse to process it because you know what it means. There's a lot of work ahead of us. And I am going to allow my person to engage in fear-based programming, because I want you to be afraid of the future that they're trying to enact. Because I think it's only by that fear will you take action to do something. Because reasoning with you, rationalizing with you, doesn't seem to be working. When I tell you that racism is a pendulum, is a virus, is an entity, and you come back and tell me that what we need is more laws to protect us, it shows that you're a neophyte, that you don't understand what I'm saying here. I'm talking the occult, the metaphysical, and you're talking legislation. That's another discussion. That's a whole different argument. I'm trying to get you to understand a higher wisdom, a higher knowledge, one that would empower you. And you are talking about means and measures that give your power away, like the voting and the legislation. They can take that away from you. They can manipulate laws. They can flip the script on you. Those are not where your power lies. Let me go into the plan of the ruling elite so you understand what we're up against and where they're going to take us. They are looking at taking us into a very dark and dystopian future. First thing they want to do is they want to craft our minds and program us to such a degree using what George Orwell called, I think it was doublespeak. By manipulating language patterns, they want us to be or get to a point where we actively and willfully cry out for our own enslavement, where we denounce our own freedoms, our own agency, where we say that imposing rules and restrictions upon ourselves and voluntarily ridding ourselves of freedoms is freedom. They want us to get to that point of where we're so programmed and morally confused that we will want to be enslaved. That is the first one. The second one is they don't want a planet of genders. They want to eliminate gender, because they are a sick people. So they will appoint educators into the major universities and institutions who will create false language and definitions to make it seem that gender is not real. And they've already started on this course of action. And you will, believe me, get to a point where you will accept the idea that gender is just a construct, that it's not biological. Number 3, the next thing they want to do is to depopulate the planet, specifically of people of color. Don't get it twisted. They don't want white people around as well, but they are looking to rid the planet of most of its population. The first is to go will be the people of color, because they represent a threat to the ruling elite. You represent a threat because you are a representation of a culture, of a way of life that has long since been destroyed. And they fear that you may one day resurrect it. And you will, because you have been programmed to do that. It is in your DNA. I'll get to that later. And the final thing is, they want us to get to a point where we worship Satan as our God. Those are the 4-step plan. First plan, they want us to get to a point of where we're so programmed that we willfully cry out for our own enslavement. Number 2 is they want to create a genderless planet. Number 3 is they want to depopulate the planet, specifically of people of color. And number 4, they want us to get to the point where we worship Satan. Now, they have been allowed to come into power because this scenario that's being played out is one scenario among an infinite number of scenarios, because Neter, God, wants to experience what it's like to have a ruling elite in power, and for him, her, to not be knowledgeable that it's God, and to see that scenario play out. Because remember, Neter wants to have an experience, and the only way Neter can have an experience in this 4D realm is for him, her, to place its consciousness within you. And you made that agreement with Neter to experience life so they can learn. Now, we're going to have to do battle with this evil group and their evil plan. But I don't mean a physical battle. If you understand what I have talked about for years now, then you know that the only solution to this is to resurrect the culture of our ancestors, to learn our spirituality and our power, come into a knowledge of our power. It is the only way that we can defeat them. We fight magic with magic. This means we have to go and learn at the feet of Tahuti. You see, when I say that you have been socially and genetically engineered, you have been programmed in such a way that the mere thought of things like the occult have you recoil, have you denounce it, have doubt in your mind pop up. Because you have been so indoctrinated into society, you cannot embrace the metaphysical. You can't conceive of the wonders that our ancestors created back in antiquity. Let's look at number one. For us to defeat the ruling elite, we first have to understand that the so-called revolution, which will be a vibrational shift, it will not be a physical revolution or a physical coup d'etat. It will be a vibrational shift in the planet. And the way to do that is that we must have a revolutionary plan that encompasses all of humanity, all of the people of the planet. It cannot be exclusive to a race. It cannot be exclusive to a gender. It cannot be exclusive to a religion. We have to have a revolutionary plan that takes us back to where we left off. And it will bring the masses of the people to a higher level of intelligence and spiritual awakening. You see, what the ruling elite did to control the planet was they just needed to get a certain number of the population of the planet to adapt to their ideology. And because of the Ma'at principle, which means that if two or more agree, so shall it be. When collectively the group comes together and collectively the group agrees upon an ideology, philosophy, what have you, then that gets uploaded to the ether, to what we call is the collective consciousness. And then it travels throughout, and it affects other people, and they psychically pick up on it, and then they start to emulate it. This is where culture comes from. This is how people on the West Coast can adapt a culture, and then suddenly, before you know it, people on the East Coast, without any contact with the people on the West Coast, have the same culture. This is metaphysics here. This is the 100 monkey principle here. This is the tipping point, as they call it. You just get a certain group of people to accept an ideology and watch as it spreads like a virus. It gets uploaded to the ether, then downloaded by others. And I have said for a long time, if you want to create geniuses, because we're always complaining about how the educational system, how bad it is. I said, if you want to create geniuses, then you gather a group of men and women and you teach them the knowledge once held by great people like Imhotep. And if you have enough of those men and women, the knowledge that they possess will get uploaded, and then it will spread, and you will see the intelligence level of the population increase. But what you are seeing here, because the ruling elite puts us under stress and fear, the media constantly pumps out fear. What does that do, and why do they do that? You see, fear is an emotion. And when you operate out of an emotion, your IQ drops significantly. And this is how they're able to get away with doing things, because they incite fear, they incite anger, they incite emotions. So you can't think logically when you have all of that going on. And this is why you'll see we perform poorly in the education system, because our IQ drops due to the stress and the trauma that we're constantly under. And on that same point, you are programmed with a self-destruct mechanism. What do I mean by that? Well, the ruling elite knows that if you collectively get together and work with one another, it will be the end of them. So what they do to ensure that the masses of people don't come into alignment is that they induce trauma, they induce fear. And again, that infects the ether. So that when you do try to align with others, you'll find resistance. And you're wondering why are we not working together for our own good? Well, because there is a pendulum, there is a virus, there is a herbivore that will oppose that idea. You see, what we're dealing with here on the physical level is also being shaped and dealt with on the metaphysical level in the ether. Because those entities that are created in the ether are mere reflections of the thought process that is going on here in the physical realm. The one thing, and the thing that was successful in the ruling elite capturing the planet, was that they understood how to create an ergobore, how to create a pendulum. So using ritual and black magic, they were able to create an ergobore of racism. And this entity lives and it indoctrinates people. It looks for new people to come into the fold, and it manipulates your mindset and controls you. And in the same vein, they have created an ergobore or an entity of wealth. And this entity of wealth works exclusively for the ruling elite. It protects them. It gives them new ways to accumulate more wealth and to rob the planet of resources. This is why we cannot engage in exclusivity. You cannot say, I am going to be out for my own and save my own, because you are intrinsically tied to others, because you share the same consciousness. So in order for a plan to work, a revolutionary plan to work, you must bring everyone up to your level. You can't say that because I'm Muslim, I'm only out for Muslims. Then your plan is doomed. It will fail. Because there is a psychic connection between all of us. And we're constantly transferring ideas and concepts to each other. And we are getting in sync and in alignment with each other. This is why women, they get around other women, their menstrual cycles align. This is why when you get into crowds of other people, your heartbeats sync. This is the Ma'at principle. These things that we're fighting against are metaphysical entities that exist in the ether. And the way their ancestors dealt with these things, they would have the mass rituals, the full moon rituals, where they would transfer their consciousness into the ether, and then they would purge the ether of that ergobore or that entity, and thus saving the nation. You're not going to win by merely putting in place external measures like legislation and laws and programs. That's not going to do it. But they really want you to think it will, and they'll push you in that direction. And they are so cunning in the way that they do things. I was telling people that this new wave is going on in Hollywood about diversity. Oh, this is funny. Let me share this story with you. There was a woman who was just hired, and she was sitting there and talking about how that white women need to align with each other, and that they need to push diversity in films. And I was sitting there with a person, and as we were listening, I told him, wait for it, wait for it. And she says that she was going to recommend that certain characters be played by African Americans. And then my friend looked at me and go, oh, she's kind of cool. I go, no, wait for it, wait for it. I said, wait for it. And then she was saying, yes, we need diversity. And why can't we have a character that's an LGBTQ? I said, there you go. There you go. That's the real plan. That's the real agenda. Drop that bomb right on time. You see, it's a Trojan horse. They come at you with this diversity thing and they make it seem like, oh, well, we're changing. Hollywood's changing. We're going to be doing things and hiring more African-American characters, which really, that's not their agenda. Their agenda is to push the LGBTQ agenda. And that's not really the agenda there either. Their ultimate goal is to get rid of genders. But they have to do what we call the totalitarian tiptoe. They've got to introduce these things in increments so you can slowly accept one thing after the other. If they threw it all at once, they would reveal their plan, tipping their hand, and also you would reject it. So it has to be slow and incremental. This is how your grandparents and their grandparents were brainwashed, were genetically and socially engineered. They slowly removed your power from you. Started out where you're not a god. The next thing is God exists outside of ourselves. Then the next thing is, oh, well, there are no deities. There's only one God. And the next thing they introduced was, oh, well, there's no such thing as psychic communication. And that's not real, And then move on to the next thing. Well, there's no such thing as the pineal gland. That's just myth. And then keep going and keep going. And before you know it, you end up where you are now, a slave. You see that the industry, especially the music industry, those who are rappers, who are getting money, lots of money to do what they do. In a past life, they were part of the Heteru clan, the deity that governs music and entertainment. And they are reincarnated here into this time period to reproduce the music that we had back in our ancient nations. But they are prevented from doing that because the music that we practiced back in our ancient nations was music that had certain frequencies and tones that could heal and uplift the population, because we use music as a healing mechanism. And of course, the ruling elite knows this. So what do? They ensure that these reincarnated entertainers or ritualers could not get into a position of power where they could lace their music and their lyrics with frequencies and lyrics that would uplift the population. Because there's no reason why these rap tracks shouldn't have binaural beats. There's no reason why it shouldn't have subliminal messages saying, you are God, you are God. You can heal thyself. But because the cabal knows the power of this, any of these reincarnated rappers and entertainers that try to do that will quickly be eliminated in one form or another. But this is the means by which we can pick up the mantle and continue amongst ourselves, is to understand the power of music when it's used properly. The power of the entertainment industry to transform minds and to transform the vibrational frequency of the planet. See, we have been thinking too small. We have been very, very myopic in our viewpoint because we think exclusively for the group and not understanding that the problem with the planet has its origin in something much bigger than us. Much, much bigger than us. For those who keep saying that the chief problem facing the 21st century is racism, you're missing the point. You're missing the point. Racism comes out of lack of spirituality, a lack of spiritual ascension, and also left brain thinking. And that left brain thinking has spawned off into many problems in the society. So we have to get back to understanding, hey, listen, how can we deal with this thing of racism? Well, you know what? It's only one symptom of a greater cause. See, when I look at the problem of the world, I don't just look at racism. I look at a lot of things. I say, you know, but see, one of the main problems of the world is it's not based on cosmologics, a place for everything and everything in its place, a natural order for things. That's one of the big problems that we have. In Kemet, the mere fact that you were born on a certain day and time and exhibited certain characteristics, they put you into a clan. They would say this person is a Ma'at clan, because this person sees the bigger picture. This person has synthesis thinking patterns. And this person can help us in revolutionizing religion and philosophy. This person over here has a cold, moist energy. They would be good for these type of career fields. That's how we thought in Kemet. We didn't just assign things to people arbitrarily. People just didn't pick a name because the name sounded cool. Your name came from your destiny reading. The oracle would say your destiny is this. And based on the fact that your destiny is this, your name should be this, because your name is a frequency, it's a mantra. And that when your name is recited, it will give you energy to fulfill your destiny. The cosmologics arrangements of elements tells you that there's a more sophisticated way of looking at things. When you get into the higher spiritual awakening and higher spiritual consciousness, you realize that the way certain people are acting is only because they're genetically programmed to act that way. When I tell you that these people who are of European descent are predominantly left brain, I'm not saying that that's evil intrinsically. I'm just telling you, based on a geographical location, that they develop this type of thinking process. But where it becomes evil and wayward and backwards is that you look at that as the only way and not see a myriad of different ways, all working together as one mechanism. If I say that people of color are primarily right brain, I'm not saying that that's evil. But I'm also saying that if you don't have the right and the left brain working together, you're going to have problems. But see, we miss the mark because we come along and we think that everything is a racist thing and solving the racism issue, then everything is back in order. You're missing it. You're missing it. Your mission is much bigger than that. Your mission is to save a planet, not a people. I guarantee you, if you solve the racism issue, it will come back again. It will come back again and bite you in the ass because you're not getting to the root of the cause. The wayward and backward thinking of the planet. The ruling elite has done a magnificent job in fooling and deceiving the planet into thinking a certain way. And yes, racism is one way to deceive the people. Concrete thinking is another. And hierarchical thinking is another. Segregated thinking or the segregated faculty is another. When you start and seek out to save the planet, then that's a higher calling. And then you have God and the ancestors on your side. When I speak to you, I speak to you not in terms of race, because we are raceless. We are consciousness. We are all one consciousness. See, when you play their game, you lose. And many of our organizations have lost because we've played their game. We merely took we took a page from their playbook, racism, and flipped it and practiced it, and then thought that that would liberate us. How is saying that we are better than you, we build pyramids, is going to liberate you? It's not going to liberate you, because you're just doing the same thing that they're doing. Prejudice, egotistical. And I know it's painful because you've been oppressed for many, many years. I know it's painful because many have died. I understand. This is why in the story of Asar and Set, Haru did not kill Set, because he knew there was a place for Set in the whole scheme of things. And that's what you're going to have to understand. That you cannot eradicate that other side of you. You cannot eradicate you, because they are you. They just stepped over their bounds. You got to put them back in their place, because there is a place for left brain segregative thinking. It does well when it's in its assigned place. But it's moved out of its place. And it's fooling the world and making the world think that that's the end all and be all of intelligence. Because this whole idea of concrete thinking now prevents us from seeing the solution to our problem. And the solution is we're going to have to fight this on a metaphysical level. We're going to have to go into the ether and purge it of those entities. And then we're going to have to upload a new ideology, a new way of thinking, holistic thinking. It's the only way. And it's totally doable in the absence of priests and priestesses, because we don't have them anymore because they were eradicated. But it still can be done through the expressions that I named earlier: music, entertainment. That information gets uploaded to ether right away, and it spreads fairly quickly. So I hope this makes sense to you, that we're never going to get out of the situation we are thinking exclusively. That's not going to work. You've got to look at the problems and then bring that to the table and say, here are all the problems that we're facing. And the key is to understand that even though you're bringing what looks to be many different issues, they're really all tied together and can be traced back to its origin. It's the same way when I prescribe, if you're having problems with your mate or friend, if you meditate and you see yourself acting with them harmoniously, then your vibrational frequency will resonate and affect them, and they will change without you having to talk to them. This is how we'll get out the situation that we're in, by tuning into those powers that will devastate the ruling elite. They won't see it coming. But right now, if we still act from the perspective that, oh, we got to prevent them from enacting their one world government, or from getting the planet under its control, I told you, they already have the planet under their control. They already won the battle and the war. And when you accept that and move from that point on, then you're making progress. I was watching David Icke talk the other day, and he was talking with such passion and conviction. Hey, mate, don't you not understand that we have to stop them before they take us to that Orwellian future, mate? This is what I've been trying to tell the people. We're not going to make it. And I'm sitting there going, don't he get it? We didn't make it. We didn't make it. We're already there. Because you know why? He doesn't understand, and most people like him in the conspiracy theory arena, they don't really understand what it was like in antiquity. If you don't have that as the basis, then you'll never know what you're supposed to be and where you can go. He's looking at history and thinking we were the same way back then as we are now, and that we have to protect the way we are now. I don't want you to protect the way you are now. I'm telling you honestly and truthfully that you are sick, that you have self-destructive tendencies. We all do, because we have been crafted that way. I'm telling you, you're not well. And the conspiracy theory arena and people like him and David Icke make you believe that because he's woke, you're the problem and not him. No, he's not all together. And most of them are not all together as well. He's half a gangster. He's out there caping for the revolution, but he doesn't understand who he's supposed to be. And that is Osir. You're supposed to be Osiris here and now, God on earth. And because he doesn't understand that, most people like him don't understand it. They're fighting to protect the way they are now, as though that is the perfect ideal image of a human or humanity. This present world, there is no humanity. Let's understand that. There is no humanity. There's no justice. There's no morality. We're bankrupt when it comes to those things. That is because we have been tampered with. We have downloaded viruses that get us to act against our own best interests. We failed to protect the ether, the collective consciousness. Because we didn't protect the collective consciousness and put up their psychic gates, we allowed the ruling elite to get in there and tamper with things and put a virus there, and we downloaded that virus. And now it's affected our software, but the hardware is still good. So don't think for a minute that you have to fight to protect who you are now. If anything, you should be advocating for a radical change in who you are. A radical change. You should understand that I am not satisfied with the way I am now. I know I can be more. I know I can be better. I know I have magnificent powers. I know I have magic. I walk with Ma'at. I walk with Tehuti. I walk with Aset. I walk with Asar. I walk with Sekert. I walk with Haru. I walk with Sebek. I walk with Geb. But they have been forgotten and cast away in favor of Christian doctrines or Islamic doctrines. Which are all lies and deceit. Because none of them have saved humanity. None of them have prevented wars and famine. You're going to have to advocate for the whole of humanity if you want to really win. You're going to have to let go of who you are and embrace something new if you really want to win. I see too many of you, and I talk to too many of you who are so egotistical, who are so caught up in self-righteousness. You can't be taught because you think you know everything. When I go before the ancestors, I say, just teach me. Because I know I don't know anything. Tell me, teach me. How does this work? Teach me the secrets of the universe. Because I'm lacking. And I will sit at the foot of Tahuti to learn. But you don't even fight to protect your own culture. You don't even fight to protect your so-called religion. You allow others to plagiarize it, to shit upon it. This is the most wonderful thing that God could give you is the Kemetic spiritual way of life. And yet you don't even appreciate it. This is the most wonderful thing to receive is the oracle of Tahuti. And yet when I talk to most people, they don't have the oracle. And I say, well, why not? That is when I was in priesthood, that was one of the first things I purchased. I said, I am going to get that oracle. And I traveled a long way to a bookstore that had them. And I picked two up for myself. Do you understand what that system is? It's a means to communicate with God, the Almighty, Nebetcher. And how long have I been teaching now? And you still don't have it? Do you even respect your culture? Do you even respect God? You should have run to Amazon and placed that order for your oracle. You should be doing readings and saying, Kasank, help me interpret this reading. Tell me what God is trying to tell me. But let me say it again. You have a means to telephone God and ask God any question, and God will give you an answer. And you have not even taken the first step in that direction, which shows me how much you care about your own culture, how much you protect your own culture. Do we deserve freedom? Do we deserve liberation in the way that we've conducted ourselves? You should be passionate for the Kemetic spiritual way of life, passionate in the way Aset or Isis was passionate about resurrecting her dead husband, Osiris. She is the epitome of devotion. Most of us just want intellectual masturbation. We like hearing this stuff, but when it comes to practicing it or following it, we do it here, we do it there. You should be gung-ho and excited for every drop of knowledge on Kemet. I don't know. Why the reservation? Why the reluctancy? What's the problem? It's yours. It was meant for you. It was given to you. It is teaching you how to awaken the powers within you. So why are you so slow to walk this path? Forget about me. I don't mean anything. I'm not important. Get that straight. What is important is this spiritual way of life. That's what you should be excited about. The excitement that comes from Heteru, the goddess of joy. You should be out there proselytizing about the Kemetic spiritual way of life. When you get around family members, you go, oh, here he's coming with that Kemetic stuff again. Here she's coming with that Kemetic stuff. That's what should be happening because you're so passionate about it. But I don't see that. I don't see the fire in your eye. I don't see the Harukuhuti spirit. You mix Harukuhuti with Heteru, and you got some serious, serious passion going on there. But we're lacking that now, which is probably why we're in the situation we're in now, why we're so oppressed, why we're suffering. I think most of you know the problem. You know the solution. So it's time to stop talking about this and move in that direction and swiftly. Never before has the world seen something like this. And hopefully they'll see it again if I have anything to say about it. Because we will resurrect this knowledge and this wisdom. We will save this planet. One way or another, we will do it. Your mission is not only to practice this, but to teach your children this so they'll teach their children and their children. So that if we fail this lifetime, your children will pick up and continue where we leave off. And that we give these guys in power hell. We give them hell. They may have a firm grip on us, but while they have that grip, we're biting and punching them. We're fighting back to the point of where they're going to get tired and let go and say, enough of this, we're done. But we have to start. Right now, we're passive and we're accepting our enslavement. We're okay with it. Go talk to God. Go do your oracle reading. Go talk to God. Ask God, what's my destiny? What do I need to be doing? Who do I need to marry, God? What career do I need to be in, God? What habits do I have, God? What deficiencies do I have, God? God, how can I show my devotion and love for you more, God? God, who are you? Where are you? What is the meaning of life, God? Ask God these questions. And she will give you an answer, I promise you. You may not understand it fully, but nonetheless, you will get an answer. You can't get that in Christian religion. You can't get that in Islam or Catholicism or Judaism. But the Kemetic religion, our ancestors left a means for us to get the answers from God. It's the oracles. Talk to your ancestors as well. See, you're estranged from God. You haven't had that meaningful discussion in a long time. I mean, a two-way conversation, not just you praying. So you have a lot of catching up to do. Start now. This is Kasank Ma Keperu, son of Maat and Tuti. My aunt is the beautiful goddess Heteru. Until the next video, I'm in Ra.